All right, Pete. So that red light just came on. Are you nervous? You okay?
I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown,
Well,
Jeff.
this you want to back out. Now's the time to do it. But I kid. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. Why don't you tell my listeners who you are and what your company does?
Sure. I'm Pete Mastin. I'm the CEO of Learnie. That can be found at www.mylearnie.com.
Cool.
We are a mobile community microlearning platform for training frontline workers. And we are also pretty good at training non frontline workers, but we really specialize in deploying peer learning into environments where that otherwise isn't there's no sort of systemic way to capture the knowledge of your subject matter experts in the field. And the companies that are adopting our technology, that's the problem they're setting out to solve, which is tons of people running around in the field, and some of them are experts, and we want to capture their knowledge.
Yeah. So let's walk through just maybe like a quick sort of case study or example on how this would be used, or maybe who the audience would be for it.
Sure. So I'll give you an example of one of our customers. They're a multi-location retail chain, furniture store. They've got 380 stores, 2,000 plus employees. And you can imagine that, relatively high turnover. A lot of the sales
Yeah.
associates there tend to be in their 20s, let's say, and they may roll over into other jobs on a pretty regular basis. And so training and keeping a consistent consumer experience in those stores is a challenge. And so what they do is they find the best and brightest people across these stores to create sales training on things like the sleep system, or the barcode chair or
Sure.
whatever.
Right.
And so those nuggets of information are then shared across the entire enterprise, to allow everyone to be as good as your best person.
Huh.
And so that's been they've been a customer for over a year now, and very happy with the platform. They're rolling out new information in it as we speak, actually. Other use cases are in the solar industry. We actually have recently signed 3 different solar companies that are all using us to manage field operations, right? Everything from, how to do an install or an inverter inspections or installs of a new installation. And so they are managing that. A third one is a company that uses our platform to train people so if you have a hailstorm in your region of the country, tons of these guys show up who represent the insurance companies, and they want to inspect your roof, right? And this company is the company that provides these individuals to go do roof inspections. And you can imagine, again, high turnover, a big need to train these people on the correct process to document damage, because there's actual
Mhm.
money that gets transacted. So those are just 3 simple examples of people using our technology to create training and learning on the fly for the mobily inclined worker.
That's cool. So you mentioned it's a technology. So I'm assuming that people are loading up documents and content into your into your technology, and then from there it's being disseminated out. Is that how it would work?
It is, and let's call it what it is. I mean, we are a TikTok for learning
Mm,
style learning, right? So it's video.
yeah.
People are creating video assets that are short burst. We don't allow 20-minute run-on videos.
Yeah.
We force the user who's creating the content to create it in short bursts with cognitive breaks,
Mm,
and then to distribute that in what we call communities. And those communities are isolated. They're like a Slack community, if you're more
sure.
familiar with that, where you've got certain employees in that community. Maybe it's your operations staff, maybe it's your sales staff, maybe it's your finance
Hmm.
group. But however that community is broken up, that if you've got access to that community, you can share knowledge, and you can also comment on other people's knowledge that they've submitted to that community.
So it does seem like it's a nice central location that as things are growing or changing, you can maybe see, hey, we used to do it this way, but now we do it this way because X, Y, and Z changed, which happens all the time in sort of training people, right?
Yeah, and in fact, that's one of the biggest value propositions of our technology is historically in the training space, in the learning space, or the uppercase
Hmm.
learning management system space, LMS space, you would go off and spend thousands of dollars or maybe tens of thousands of dollars creating some long form piece of content about some process that the company has implemented. And then a year later, you find out that that step two has changed,
Mhm.
right? Because it always changes. Everything changes. In our platform, you don't have to go recut that video. You just re-record that one burst that represented step two,
Yeah,
move it into its place, and you're done in seconds. And so you've created we've made it so it's very easy for the documentation of a process to actually stay in alignment with the actual process,
sure.
which is super important in an evolving, enterprise where things change all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems now. Correct me if I'm wrong. As we're all kind of, I'm trying to learn here as I go through it. No pun intended. But so it seems like you guys are consolidating maybe multiple different tools that might exist out there, but putting them all in one. I'm speaking. I think I have like 7 or 8 tools that we use to, you know, I guess train our staff and learn. But this would be something that it would all be under one umbrella. Correct?
Correct. I mean, when we set out in 2020, when we set out to build the company, we built it on a three-legged stool, and we wanted to solve three problems. One was mobile first, because if you know much about training, what you know is that the mobile experience for training is pretty poor. LMSs don't deliver good mobile experiences. The second is we wanted to emphasize community, which has been completely de-emphasized. One of the problems is companies aren't capturing the knowledge of their subject matter experts. And then if you think about the boomer generation retiring, if you think about people who leave companies every 3 to 5 years, those subject matter experts are walking out the door with your knowledge, because the L&D team, the training team, didn't capture that knowledge. That's for sure. They don't know the knowledge, and they have no way to capture it because they're not out interviewing these people.
Sure.
So the second stool was community. And the third stool is microlearning, because the human attention span continues to decrease, right? I think there was a Ted Lasso episode where they said it was down now below 9 seconds,
Hmm.
right? So we built the platform on mobile community microlearning, and we actually own community microlearning, the trademark on
That's
that.
cool.
And so yeah, any tools that you have that are mobile, and many companies have mobile, they've deployed mobile apps of their own. We can do that as well.
Mm.
Actually, you can actually contract us, and we'll build our app as your app if you so desire. Otherwise, you would just use it under the Learnie logo
Yeah.
with your it'd still be labeled your communities with your logos. But mobile first community, allowing everyone to contribute knowledge, much as in a Instagram kind of environment, but again in a private environment.
Yeah.
And then micro learning. Our form of micro learning is loosely based on Pekakuchu, which is a Japanese form of presentation that, broadly speaking, the TED Talks have adopted, and it's 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide.
Mm.
And so we do the same thing. We force you to say what you mean, say what you want to say in a very short period of time, do a cognitive break, say the next part, say the
Yeah.
next part. It's perfect for step-by-step type training, but it's also good for high-level stuff, where you're teaching leadership skills.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, you and I first kind of chatted back, I think, in like 2020. It's been a few years here.
It has been.
Uh, has AI infiltrated your world? I got to imagine that had to be a big, big change.
The robots are coming.
Yeah. Um, Tell me a little bit about, is that happening? How does that fit into your?
Yeah, no, we are ardent supporters of using AI intelligently
Mhm.
to better the process
Yeah.
of training people. And so we have like 4 or 5 solid use cases. One, quizzing. We actually have an AI quiz generator. So the AI will actually look at the video burst and figure out the best questions to ask based on the content. We also have an AI assistant within a community. So if someone gets dropped into a community, they can just ask the AI assistant, hey, A, B, and C, and the AI assistant will assist them
Mm.
in getting up to speed on that community. And we also have lots of examples of using generative AI, generative video AI with avatars and chat GPT type scripting to create video burst. And so, yes, the answer is yes. We are absolutely leaning in on AI. Everything I just mentioned is in production. This isn't like in the R&D lab. This is in the product today. You can download the product, play with these these features today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's kind of talk about you kind of personally. How did you get to here? What is your background? What's your story? How did you become passionate about this field, and what's your journey?
Thanks. That's a great question. So I came out of. I'm not going to go all the way back because it'll indicate how old I am. But say .com era time frame.
Yeah.
I gained some expertise in video, and I became very passionate about online video. And back then, if you recall, I mean, we're talking again 99, 90, 2000 time frame.
Mhm.
The best you could do is a thumbnail size video, that was and it would still buffer and do things.
Yeah.
So I spent the next couple of years really figuring out streaming video on the internet, and ended up being one of the founding team members, the CTO of a company called Multicast Media, which was really one of the very, very first online video platforms
Mm.
before YouTube, before Vimeo, before any of them.
Yeah.
We had a good run. I left there in 2009, went and did a bunch of other stuff, but I always harbored the belief that video, online video, like
Yeah.
internet-based video, could be so much more than TV, right?
Sure.
Because of the interactive nature of it. And so when I got the opportunity in my last company, Jaloki, it was a training company, and we ended up selling it to a publicly held company. But we really started going down the road of creating interactive features, and that's what Learning's all about. When we founded Learnie, we wanted to create a very interactive, so that an employee in the field is engaged and can contribute their knowledge back. It's not just compliance knowledge coming down; it's actually knowledge about how the company makes money and
Yeah.
saves money. And it can be, job sites information. It can even be. It's so simple to create learnies. We call lessons learnies, and we call courses learning journeys. But it's so easy to create a learning that we have customers who are creating what we refer to as disposable knowledge,
Mm.
right? Because in your traditional learning management systems, you would never do that because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
But with us, you pull out your phone. Hey, I've got a sinkhole on this job site and it's getting worse, and I need to have a crew in here with some gravel tomorrow,
Mm.
right? Boom. You can send that learning out to everybody on the team, and they'll get the message because they see it. They
Yeah.
see it's visible, and they can get out there. So, and that's disposable, because a week from now, that's not something that needs to still people need to know, but you needed to know it today.
Right.
So
Yeah. Interesting. How have you seen, like, what did COVID do for your business in terms of almost everybody being remote now, and not maybe having that institutional knowledge all located at least in the cubicles, right? The
in the
How are
room.
you doing that? How are you doing this? Right? I think we all lost that. My team is all over the globe, so how am I training somebody in India today on something? So how did COVID kind of impact this, and did it just ramp up? And how'd you guys fit in that?
Well, so it would be easy to say, COVID was a real enabler of the business, but I think, like my co-founders, and we're all over the nation and really all over the world. We've got one of our co-founders in South America, so we chose the people because of who they are, not because of where they were. So in that sense, we were already kind of thinking remotely, but we did start the company in 2020, and I'd say on the product, it didn't really have an impact on product development, because all of that, the flow of that was good. So I would say raising money became more difficult.
Mm.
We did a friends and family round, which we raised enough to allow us to test markets and build the software. But that during that time period was a little more complex.
Hmm. Hmm.
And just going, and people weren't doing in-person meetings, and I think that it's pushed things digital,
Yeah.
obviously, right, Jeff? I mean, that's what you noted, is
Hmm.
that things have gone like Zoom calls. Everybody's doing Zoom and everybody's doing digital now. But um, but I do think it's coming back. In person is coming back. I'm seeing more attendance at conferences, more people coming back, and I do believe the future, like our future marketing spend, will include in person events,
Yeah.
because people want to meet you. I mean, there's an old adage in marketing: you have to touch people like 7 times before they're a buyer. Well, it can't all just be via email and Zoom calls. Some of them is going to be in person.
Yeah.
And so, I can't say it did us any harm.
Hmm.
I don't know if it did us any good, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, no. And how do you guys stand back? Because as you're describing this, and again, I've heard you talk about this a few times now. It definitely feels like it's something that is for a business teaching their staff and using the tools. How do you see this going into more global education landscape? Like just education in general. This concept of more of these bite-sized nuggets of video content. And is it something that you guys aspire to get to, or do you guys really see your vertical being no, we are for the furniture company that you mentioned? Like that's really what we are.
Workforce training.
Yeah.
So up until 3 months ago, let's say, I would have told, yes, we are a workforce training company. That's all we focus on.
Hmm.
We actually recently closed a large school system that I'm
Hmm.
not going to mention who they are,
Yeah.
but so we are moving into sort of K through 12 and higher ed, if you will. And we have spoken to universities in the past as well, things like DEI training for the professors and so forth.
Yeah.
So there are use cases there that we know we would be a good fit for. But like any other small business, focus is important, right?
Sure.
And where we're seeing most of our energy is still companies that are have a deskless workforce.
Yeah.
But I'll point out that teachers, while they do have computers, they're on their feet all day, right? They're walking around. Many of them would much rather you know get their information off of a mobile device.
Yeah. Yeah. As a serial entrepreneur yourself, and maybe for our listeners who are running their own company, how do you stay that focused and not try to eat the whole elephant in one bite? Like, I'm sure it's hard. As a founder myself, I can find myself doing something where my wife's like, "What are you doing over there?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't really know." So how do you just again stay focused, stay kind of on a path, and not not get too big with ideas?
So there are people on my team right now. So here's my answer. My answer is I surround myself with very focused
Yeah.
people who know how to do have the checklist. Now I do have my notebook here that I write down everything and I keep track of stuff.
Mhm.
But I am much more of a big picture guy in a lot of ways. But I have an excellent team. Like really, like I can't talk about how good my team is without just it was important how good this company's be because of that.
Yeah.
And some of those people are extremely detail oriented, and I've worked with them in the past,
Mhm.
right? I mean, they're all people, everyone on this team I've known for 20 plus
Mm.
years. So it wasn't an accident that the way we just fell together at all. But yeah, I would say I think you need a balance,
Yeah.
man. You need a balance of big ideas, a little, I won't call it flaky, but a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little, running down certain rabbit holes,
Sure.
and then very detailed step by step people.
Yeah.
And the guys who I'm always impressed, to be honest with you, with the guys or girls that think they can do it alone. I've never had that delusion
Yeah.
that I could start a company on my own. Every startup I've done has had a team. This team's actually large. When we do pitches to venture capitalists, they all point out, man, that's the biggest founder team I've ever seen.
Mm.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's because, and I'd rather have a team where everybody's got a really good equity stake in it and we're all fighting together.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have 59% of the company or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like I'm more, I'd rather have, it's the old adage, I'd rather have a small slice of a big pie.
Yeah.
And we think that pie is potentially enormous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's while we're on this kind of topic here, let's stay in like team. I know you mentioned that you've known a lot of people for a long time, but in the other companies or everything you've done, how do you find strengths, weaknesses? How do you know what you're looking for to partner with and to kind of build that team? What are you typically looking for in team members to get on board with the project?
Probably the most important thing is people who will accept, kind of, I mean, let me put it this another way. It's everyone fails
Mhm.
eventually,
Yeah.
right? It happens, right? I mean, I fail. Everyone. I won't say you fail, Jeff. I don't think you ever fail, but
Okay.
everyone fails.
I'm, I'm,
Everyone's
I'm
a
in the
Jeff failure.
crowdfunding space. It's like all failure right now because
I know. I
nobody has any
know.
money and it's the whole world's broke. But I digress. You were saying,
But the point is that you find people that can accept their own shortcomings and laugh about them, hopefully.
Mhm.
What you don't want in any company, whether it's startup or whether it's major, giant enterprise, is toxic work
Yeah,
environments, right? That kills the buzz faster than anything.
sure.
So, if people can laugh together, even in the face of, man, I screwed up, you know, and it's and so that characteristic to me is more important than some. You can buy expertise, right?
Yeah,
You can't buy good attitude. Yeah, it has to come. You have to people have to have that.
sure.
If I need someone that's like the most unbelievable programmer in some language or whatever, I'll go find that guy or girl and we'll use them. And if they're great at what they do and they're fun to work with, we may keep them around.
Right.
But it's more important that people get along and don't create toxic environments, because I'll tell you this about startups: you're always together a lot longer than you think.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks startups are 6 months, man. We're gonna, it's gonna be amazing, and it's never the
Yeah.
case ever. I mean, it's years later you wake up and you go, "I'm still hanging out with these people." Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So let's kind of pivot maybe back to just the product itself. It's super
sure.
innovative. I mean, everything I've seen online, I mean, it just looks like it's really slick. Talk to us to my listeners a little bit about maybe development team. What was kind of step one? Is it just sketching it out? Like how did you start to put this the product together?
Sure. So we have a number of people in the company that have all worked in ed tech
Mm,
or in workforce training platforms,
no.
and one of us in particular, not myself, but he's worked like 30 years in ed tech.
Oh,
That's
cool.
all he's done, right? And he deployed like LMSs like for the U.S. Navy.
Mm,
So he's done big ed tech, big LMS, and what we all noted with our varying experiences is that corporate training typically fails to actually ever set out to what it's supposed to do, which is to train people on how the company makes money, how they do their business, or how we save money. One of the two. I
sure.
mean, companies either need to make money or save money. That's what they do. And so in almost all training, if you look at it across all the companies that have deployed all the LMSs out there, and this is, by the way, this is like a $480 billion industry. This is a very large industry. And so almost all companies of any size have some kind of training program, and some. So if you look at across all those, you don't see a lot. You see almost all of it's compliance training,
Yeah,
right? And that's because that's the easy button for the HR department.
sure.
They know they need for liability reasons, they need to do sexual harassment training, they need to do DEI training, they need to do whatever. But they never quite get around to the part where I'm training you on what your job is. There's a rule in the industry called 70-20-10 rule.
Mm,
And it basically goes like this: 70%. So if I hired Jeff tomorrow
yeah,
and a year from now I just follow you around with a notebook and I say, Jeff, what do you do all day? What is it you do around here? And what we would find is 70% of what you do is self-taught. You
mm,
figured it out. Your boss said, "Hey, go create a spreadsheet about this, or go do this. I need a PowerPoint,"
yeah,
and you go find something online. You,
right.
you cheat it up. It looks great. 20%, someone came over and said, "Hey, Jeff, this is the way we do it here.
Mm,
Here's this." Only 10% of what you actually do on your day-to-day basis is captured in the corporate learning management system.
yeah,
The study's been done hundreds of times across many organizations. It's called the 70-20-10 rule.
mm,
And we wanted to turn that inside out, right?
yeah,
We wanted to, because that's what's missing, is that companies aren't capturing the knowledge of their subject matter experts.
yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. Who's your decision maker in at a company to bring you on? Is it HR? Is it the boss? Is it a training person? Who are you looking for that decides we need to integrate this into our system?
So yes, to your question, but I'll give you the rank order.
Yeah.
The people, here's how I measure it: the people who have where we have the shortest sales cycles, operations.
Mm,
100%.
yeah.
They get it because they're like, "Oh my God, somebody's going to lose an eye or get a finger
Yeah.
cut off or whatever. I got to get some training in place." They see this and they go, "Oh, You mean I can just have Johnson over here say how you do the inverter stuff and yeah, great, Johnson, go over there and do that. And so operations gets it, they execute, and that's our most successful companies are companies where the the shortest sales cycle,
Yeah.
we'll say. I won't say most successful,
Yeah.
the shortest sales cycle. So C-level or operations. Then the next one is someone who's been tasked with training,
Mm.
and they go, and maybe they already have an LMS, and we integrate very like a Lego with existing LMSs. We implemented what's called XAPI,
Okay.
which is an industry standard for implementing multi-LMS situations. So you can bring Learnie in and plug it into your Cornerstone. It works day one. Everybody's happy. And so when we talk to those training departments, the conversations go along. Oh well, what kind of integrations do you have? We check those boxes. And often, so the people with the budget all the time are operations.
Mm.
The people with some budget sometimes are the kind of head of training. And then the people who often, where it's the longest sales cycle, is HR,
Mm.
because they're mired many times in, they're thinking compliance training,
Sure.
right? They don't really care. I mean, it's not they don't care.
Yeah.
Everyone cares
Right.
about the business being successful, but they don't like, it's not their job to train Willie, on how to fix this
Right.
machine. It's their job is to make sure nobody sexually harasses and nobody
Yeah.
does this stuff, right? And so there, if when we end up, and we do have content packages that we deliver and bundle with the platform, Microlearning,
Mm-hmm.
and we call it Onboarding University, and it has things like DEI policies, and it has things like, sexual harassment policies, and it has things like ADA policies. And what makes us different in that arena for HR is that, unlike training that you might buy off the shelf that you can't modify,
Mm-hmm.
with our training, you can contextualize it to your
Oh, that's
business.
cool.
So if you're the CEO or the head of HR of a business, and you want to make a personal statement about the sexual harassment policy, you can get on and create a burst that says, "Hey, I'm 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 Jimmy from HR, and I've got two daughters, and I can promise you that if you sexually harass anybody in this company, you're going to be fired."
Yeah.
And you can put that as the very first burst that people see, and it's impactful. There's studies that show that, if a peer, if someone says something in a training, it's like 80% more effective than if it's a random cartoon says it or something.
Wow. Wow. This just kind of popped in my mind. I sold my previous company. And one of the things that I kind of got dinged on, which I might not have got as much as I wanted, was that I didn't have a lot of documentation. It was just kind of like, it's all in this guy's brain right here, and then I brought my
Right.
wife on, and gave it to her in this format. It seems like if a company really built up their processes and systems, that if they ever got to the point of selling said company, or whatever happens, partnerships, that to have that documentation seems like it would be a real big value for the company. So like, just taking whatever
Yeah.
this investment is, you'd be like, man, you're going to be able to take this and plug into these other things that may come down the pipeline.
It's funny you mention that. One of our customers is a property management company. They own half a dozen trailer parks and home arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And the stated reason by the CEO was, yeah, I need to document my standard operating procedures, my SOPs.
Yeah.
And he's basically, putting that work out on his, maintenance guys and his, cleaning guys, and is just saying, look, I need you all to document what you do as part of what you do.
Yeah.
And if it changes, I need you to change it. And again, because our platform makes it so easy to create that content, it's like creating an Instagram reel.
Yeah.
It's like creating a TikTok, which I know we may not be able to do for much longer in this country, but it's that kind of effort. And so it's easy, right? Takes you a minute or two. It's not like you have to go learn a video editor or do any of that.
Sure.
It's a mobile app. You spin it up, you document the process, and you're off to the races.
It's awesome. I can see that value too. I might be your case study here about the stuff we struggle with, because it's just, when I have these team members, they're all in their tool, they're all learning on their own little tips and techniques. Oh, the data comes like this, you got to map it this way. And if said person leaves, I don't know what they were doing for
That's right.
5 months, you know, and now
100%.
that next person comes in and I train them from what I was doing it a year ago, and it's the tool's not here. You don't push this button now; it's down here, and you just and man, all I'm seeing is dollar signs of time wasted. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to retrain this again. And
Jeff, I need to have a sales call with
yeah,
you
we might have,
apparently.
yeah. Yeah, we might have. I'm hearing all of it. And it's all the pain points that I feel. Well, you know, my company is what are we about 15, 16 people, 4 full time, and then the rest contractors kind of plugging in. What is like a company size that you want or kind of fits best? Is it all over the place, or is there more specific company size?
Well, we are, so it's a per seat model.
Mm,
So but we have companies as small as 8 people that are using it, and very happily, they're going to span. They have a franchise.
yeah,
So their idea is they got 8 people now with 3 locations. They're going to have 25 people in a year with 10 locations or whatever. I don't know the
yeah,
exact numbers,
right,
but the point is we'll grow with them. We also have companies that have thousands and thousands of employees that are using it for to train across many locations. So I mean, you asked what companies I like. I mean, I obviously would like a company with 1 million employees,
sure,
but although that might be a little bit of stress too,
sure,
stress me anyway. It won't stress the product. The product can scale, but it would stress me.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when we market, to answer the question that way, we market to companies of 500 and above
Gotcha.
is typical, but we have anything, and it's a scalable price model, meaning the price per user goes down the more people you add. So it gets into the pennies per user per month pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And it's pretty standard. And we also have a pricing model that can allow for usage based for very, very large companies that want to say, hey, look, I got 100,000 employees, but I'm only going to, I want to do a commitment of 10,000 per month, and we'll have overages and
sure.
stuff like that. So we can support that as well. But that's only for those kind of companies.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. What's keeping you up at night when you go to bed at night? What are you like? I gotta get this done. What's keeping you up right now?
Let's see. I'll look on my notebook here. Um, what's keeping me up? We're in better shape than we've been. 2022 was a little rough for us. 23, we really started gaining traction. We're now, starting to really see the light of day in terms of getting to profitability and getting to, really growth, because that's our goal. Our goal isn't to run a lifestyle business. We want to grow. We want to be, $100 million business, to
Mhm.
be honest with you, and we think we can be. And this ecosystem of learning supports that, right? I mean, even if we start out in workforce training, that is a very, very big market.
Sure.
Then you start tacking on K through 12 and up higher ed, and then going outside the English speaking world. Although our app does support 9 languages today,
Oh wow.
and we do automated closed captions in the video in over 120 languages. So then I forgot to mention that in your use of AI.
Yeah.
That's another thing we use AI for, is to do automated closed
Hmm.
captions. But yeah, I mean, what keeps me up is how to fund the growth,
Sure.
right? I mean, my biggest is in my role, the biggest thing is I need to figure out how to fund the growth, meaning the marketing and sales and operations. Because when we onboard, we don't just pitch the keys to you and say good luck. We actually have like a 6-week onboarding
Hmm.
training, because we want to make our clients successful,
Sure.
and we have been, and they are. And so but that has a cost, right?
Sure.
That has an expense to it, and we'll continue doing that. So really being able to fund the operations and fund the sales and marketing are what keeps me up.
Sure.
Although I sleep really well, to be completely honest.
Nice. Um, let's talk a little bit around maybe just for where you are right now. We're recording this end of March, so almost end of Q1 here. What is your next, maybe 90 to 120 days look like? Just like, what is the focus right now? What is the, hey, we want to achieve this and that? What are some of those internal milestones you want to hit?
Yeah, I mean, it's all sales focused. I mean, we want to get up to, I'm not going to mention the specific metrics, but we want to basically 4x the number of actual meetings a week we have,
Sure.
because we know we close about 1 in 10 deals,
Okay.
maybe 1 in 15 deals. So if I had more deals, I close more
Sure.
deals. I get, so if I can figure out how to get the top of my pipeline to be a little fresher,
Mm.
that would be, that's a big one, and we're actively working on it.
Sure.
In fact, you can't see my screen here, but right above me is my marketing spend for the next 30 days,
Yeah.
and it all includes bringing on new outbound activity.
Yeah.
We've tried a lot of different things with marketing. It's really interesting. It's the thing that I would have assumed about marketing wasn't true. That social would probably be one of our biggest, and we still have a presence on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, obviously, and stuff. But really, just old fashioned outbound email
Yeah.
is because we have a solid message, and if we get to the right people at the right time, and they're the qualified, authorized buyers, and they got a budget,
Yeah.
we win, right?
Mhm.
So, like, if so, we're starting to really increase that spend primarily, and maybe start doing some webinars and other things that we haven't been doing enough of. Um, but it's around that.
Yeah.
That's stuff that I'm thinking about.
Very cool. And let's expand that. Let's go 5 years. Where do you see, if you put your future hat on there, where are you in 5 years right now, you think, if all this stuff goes well?
Well, I mean, I certainly, before the 5 year mark, my near term goal is to get 10 million in recurring revenue,
Okay.
and that's, that would be, I think, by our metrics, that would be in as early potentially as next year, into next year, maybe into the following,
Sure.
and then on from there. But our goal is to really radically change training, right? And so it's not so much about the metrics. We really set out our if you had asked me what our sort of tagline is in 2000, in 2020, I would have said to democratize and decentralize learning,
Mm.
right? Training, because that's the vision we see, is that for the most part, training is done top down, and there's no way to share it. If I'm a knowledgeable, let's say we're in a software engineering company, I'm a knowledgeable Java programmer, and I'm in Indiana, and you're a knowledgeable Java programmer, and you're in Atlanta, Georgia. We don't collaborate, right? There's no,
Yeah.
all the stuff that we learn from top down stuff or whatever. And so we really wanted to create a peer networking, a peer training environment where people can collaborate together. So we think we want to change the world more than we want to hit particular metrics.
Mm.
And in our clients, we see it.
Yeah.
We see our clients, their culture's changing. They're turning into what Josh Burson calls a learning
Mm.
organization, right? And so really, by using Learnie in the right way, you can enable a learning organization, which is self-sustaining at that point,
Yeah.
right? Because all of a sudden Jeff is teaching me and I'm teaching him. And like, if Jeff goes away, that's okay, because Jeff's content is still in the community.
Yep.
But now Joe comes along, and so Joe knows stuff that me and Jeff didn't know.
Yep.
So you can create a really sort of self-fulfilling and uplifting environment, and we believe in that. We
Yeah.
believe in that vision. So that's where I see us in 5 years, is really changing the way corporate America, but in particular corporate America with deskless workers. I mean, it's a little known fact, but like 80% of the global workforce is deskless.
Mm.
I mean, you think about it. You start thinking, well, there's all these guys who work at 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
and there's the nurses
Yep.
that go visit my mom in the hospital, and
At
there's
a desk.
and you start thinking about all the work, and I mean, even though we sit behind computers all day,
Mhm.
not everybody does.
Right.
And I would say like 99% of the LMSs ever written in the world were written by programmers who had never been a deskless worker in their life.
Yeah. No, totally makes sense.
So it's just an area that we think is underserved, and we think we're uniquely qualified to serve it.
Yeah. I any new client that signs, one of the tasks I give them is I push them right now to micro learn for whatever vertical they're in. It doesn't matter, but it's a term I use. It's all over TikTok, and I'm a huge TikTok user because
Yeah.
of the micro learning. So whenever I hear all the government stuff, I'm like, you guys just aren't even using it the right way. It is guys like me. I mean, I make 3 videos a day, and I do it religiously, and it goes out to my LinkedIn, and it's just, hey, here's 2 minutes of Facebook ads for equity crowdfunding. Just so you learn that. But so I think that this micro learning and kind of what you guys are describing, it does feel like it's a push towards that, because the amount of stuff that I have now learned from this guy over here doing paid ads, which then I bring into my
Right.
world, and I go, well, and I go, let me test this first. I'm doing it right now. I'm like, let me test this. This guy's got an idea. All right, yeah, I like that. I test it, and then once it works on my end, I give it to my guy that kind of takes the work the load off me a little bit. And yeah, that micro learning, but it is these bite-sized nuggets. It's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 60 seconds. You're seeing it all kinds of a lot of people I follow right now is in the AI world of using the tool like Make to automate your daily work. Just blog goes up, take the blog, chat GPT, write your LinkedIn post to here, right? And I don't know that stuff, and I'm in here like,
Right.
oh, do that, click here, do that. So I just see, I think you guys are at the, maybe the spring training, if we use a baseball analogy, of like more and more people adopting this,
Yeah. Yeah.
understanding that, like, even when I look at a recipe I make, I micro learned, here's a 60-second recipe for Easter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I took that
The
person's knowledge.
You're right. I mean, the micro learning, we think the community aspect is as important,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this, we get far more people who come to us, they find us through micro learning. Right now on Google, if you search Google, community micro learning, we're the number one
Oh, yeah, I
unsponsored
can see it.
thing. But micro learning, if you just search that, there's like everybody. It's a very expensive word. A lot of people in the space. I will say this about our micro learning versus what is often called micro learning, like Thinkific, which they're a learning platform that's out there, and I don't have any particular uh, angst against Thinkific, so please don't take this the wrong way, Thinkific. But they call themselves a micro learning platform. They're not.
Hmm.
They're just a training platform that you can do micro learning in. I agree with
Yeah.
that, but you can also do long form training, right?
Right. So yeah.
Our platform's fairly, it's a religious
Yeah.
experience. If you create learnies, you will create micro learning,
Hmm.
right? There's not really a choice. And and it's a very TikTok. In fact, you ought to come. I used to create learnies of the day, Jeff. Sounds like you create 3
I,
TikToks a day. You ought to create
yeah.
2 TikToks and 1 learnie of the day, and I'll share it with our team.
Yeah.
But but it's I mean, honestly, you would hardly know the difference between the 2 platforms
Yeah.
with regard to content creation. The difference is we're an LMS on the back end, right? So we have all the analytics and the learning stuff, but on the front end, the content creation is very similar.
Yeah, no, yeah, we should definitely try that. Well, it's funny how much almost all marketing for almost every client I have is somehow educational based as well, right? So like whatever you're doing, whatever it is, teach somebody else it. I don't care what you're doing, like because it gives me something to put on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit. Like, so you're in a vertical, teach somebody else it. It shows you as a thought leader. It proves maybe you're investable, right? I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It shows the behind the scenes a little bit, which is what people really want. And it's much better than just the glossy Facebook ad. Just that just, I know that's an advertisement, like, as opposed to, it's why we do this. I mean, this podcast will be little micro learning of, hey, here's a 30-second thing about what you said or the question and the answer. And it just gives you a little bit bite-sized nugget and you move on. So I think it's really exciting where you guys are right now. Walk me through right now. Maybe, I know you guys did a WeFunder. Maybe it was 2022, somewhere around there. Where are you guys on fundraising right now? What does that look like, and how are you guys approaching it right now?
Yeah, great question. So we did, and that's when me and you met.
Yep.
And so we did that on WeFunder. I would say it was successful. We raised $279,000 on WeFunder. It supplied us with the juice to build the product we've built, which we're a product led strategy. We knew what we wanted to build. Not to say there wasn't about a bunch of debate and all the stuff that happens with a founders team, but we definitely built something that we're very proud of and we think has a lot of metal. And we also on top, and we spent some extra money there with outsourced some development, but we also have on our team as a co-founder, kind of our chief technology guy, and he's remains part of the team and continues working on it. So we spent a lot of money then, and most of the money went to product development because we knew again what we wanted to build, and we did a little bit of market testing with it. 2023 was really when we took it to market and really started, determining, whether this thing was the right fit. We had some early wins, which kind of led us to, oh, okay, wow. And at first we weren't quite sure, where our message was. And we've definitely solidified on kind of the frontline worker, deskless worker message. Although we do sell to companies that have all knowledge workers, and they're happy with the product as well. We have a mobile, a web app that's responsive, fully responsive. So you don't even have to download a mobile app. We have mobile apps in both app stores as well.
Cool.
But what did you ask me again?
Fundraising. Where are you guys going on?
Oh yeah, fundraising.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get lost
okay.
sometimes. So I was thinking I was going to start raising money last year. I was going to start like in August, and man, between the West Coast bank that dropped dead on us, and everybody pulling back, and politics and blah blah blah. By September I realized, no, this is not going to happen this year. So we kind of put it on a side, and I just said, look, I'm going to spend my time working on revenue generating activities. Yeah. And I'm glad I did.
Sure.
I'm glad I did. We've really grown a lot in the last 6 months. We've frankly doubled our revenue in the last 6 months. So, which is great.
Yeah.
We're not done, but it's great.
Sure. Yep.
So I'm just now starting back on the train to a seed round raise.
Cool.
And we're looking at raising 1.1 million. And at a valuation that's a little higher than our friends and family, but very reasonable still. And we are actively looking for investors. We've got an amazing team. We've got an amazing product. And we think we're ready. We're built for growth scale.
Awesome.
So the use of funds is 60% marketing and sales, a little bit of operations, a little bit of, other development. But the vast majority going towards just generating more revenue. Cool. And the goal of that is to get to roughly, let's say north of 2 million in revenue, and as high as 5 million. Nice. And all our revenue is recurring. It's all SaaS recurring ARR revenue. And then we'll go out for an A round after that.
Awesome.
So, we are a growth company. The idea is to, raise this seed round, get to, a nice revenue state, and then go to the A round and take it from there. But we think post A round, we get to that 10 million number that I was referring to.
Awesome. Well,
although it could happen sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
We get to the point where we're spending most of the money on remarketing and stuff, and all of a sudden, we can turn that into more sales. So, you have to, one thing about being an entrepreneur and being in a startup is you play the cards that are dealt. Yeah, so you figure out what's working, what's not working. And if things start working really well with our sales, which they have been, if it continues, maybe we get to that 10 million without, prior to the A round, which would be amazing. Right?
Awesome. Well, let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about nothing to do with what we just talked about. So let's do some quick questions here. What are you watching right now for TV? Netflix, Hulu, HBO? Any shows you're watching right now?
Yeah, me and my wife are watching The Gentleman, which was apparently a movie too. So Guy Ritchie made the movie The Gentleman, I think, in 2019 or something. So, but I never saw that. I only know who Guy Ritchie is because he was married to Madonna. But so, then there's a show we saw, and it was called The Gentleman. And we start watching it, and then my wife she goes, "Hey, did you know Matthew McConaughey is in The Gentleman?" I'm like, "No, he's not. I know what that guy looks like. He's none of these characters." But he was in the movie apparently, not in. Yeah. So we had this big argument about it, and that's how I know there's a movie, because otherwise I looked it up and I'm like, oh. So I'm watching that right now. It's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it's entertaining. I wouldn't say it's, I mean, the last really good thing I watched was, we watch a lot of comedy. We've been watching. Here's how ancient I am. Like I missed out on all the David Chappelle.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I knew who he
Yeah.
was. I'd seen some of his stuff. We just went back and started watching David Chappelle comedy and also Ali Wong.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Ali Wong.
Funny,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, we watched her
That
show
show.
too.
Yeah. Ray.
Well, no, it's called Beef.
Yeah. Beef. That's right. 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 They get.
That was good.
Yeah. I know.
We really enjoyed it.
Yeah. We watched it too. It got pretty dark there a couple times. I was like, dang, this is intense.
Well, I will say of all so yeah, at first the first two episodes,
Yeah.
then it got really
Yeah.
good, a little dark in there,
Yeah.
but good still, compelling. And then that last episode, it just was really weird.
Yeah.
Like they went off and just ate a bunch of berries off a tree together and tripped
Yeah.
in
I
the
know.
desert. And I'm like,
My wife and I watched it, and we were like, I don't really know it. Was like,
what's going on here?
I feel like I might have missed something. Did I miss an episode? And no, we didn't.
No, that was exactly my yes.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Cool. How about
So
books? You read anything right now? You a book reader?
I used to be, man. I used to be such a book reader. I get caught up in so I got an iPad and I try to read at night.
Mhm.
And then, so I'll be sitting in bed reading at night, and then all of a sudden, something pops up on the feed and I'm reading that, or an email comes in.
Yeah.
So I really can't get through books. I was given a book recently. That's not here, but I mean, people keep sending me like sales and marketing books, which I find horribly boring.
Yeah. That-
And yeah. So,
Yeah,
and my wife keeps giving me yoga books. My wife gives me yoga and health books, which I find boring. And then so I need to go find a good read, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I read small stuff,
I do.
micro.
I'm in the same boat. I just don't do that. I don't sit down and just read for 40 minutes.
I used to, man.
I-
I mean, I've read Dostoevsky. I've read Thomas Pynchon, the big ones.
Yeah.
I've read like all. I mean, I used to read voraciously when I was from the time I was like 8 till the time I was 30.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dropped
I
off.
hear you. I hear you. How about podcasts? You listen to anything right now in podcast world?
Podcast. What do I listen on? I should have an answer to this one, shouldn't I?
Obviously, this one you're listening to the pre-IPO hype one, but anything.
I listen to your podcast. I listen to the Jeff Wenzel podcast mostly. I kind of stay there. No, I find so the problem is my son listens to a lot of the political podcasts. I find them, just a little divisive.
Sure.
I just find them little. I mean, whatever side you're on the politics, it's all freaking toxic.
Yep.
So, I mean, I need to sport. Now I do listen to some sports podcasts, I guess. There's a guy, I'm a Braves fan, Atlanta Braves, go Braves, chop, chop. I do listen to some podcasts that have to do with baseball,
Okay.
which I find.
Okay. All right. And last one, how about music? What are you listening to right now? You got any music favorites?
Well, music, you're going to get an earful.
Okay.
I play in a band. I play in a country band,
Cool.
and I listen to a lot of Americana style. Not so much the Nashville country, but
Peter Jennings,
there's a ton of great stuff out right now. That's just amazing. I guess my most recent one was a kind of an older album that I didn't know existed. I'm a huge Willie Nelson fan, and apparently when he turned 90. He had a concert in his behalf, and he had artists from all over the place, from all over the spectrum of artists, not just country artists, come out and sing his songs, a lot of his songs.
That's cool.
And it's man, if you just look up Willie Nelson 90, it's amazing. It's one of the best albums I've heard recently.
Wow,
so
that's cool. Yeah, if you're into that, do you listen to Shooter Jennings or Margot Price?
Shooter, yeah, sure.
Anything Dave Cobb produces is tip top.
Yeah,
because
I'm a big fan of what's the Turtles all the way down guy, Sturgill Simpson.
Oh, Sturgill, Sturgill.
Yeah, so I like all of it. I mean, Lucas Nelson, Willie's little son, is his original stuff is awesome.
Yeah, there's been a on TikTok back to that. Watching not Waylon, but Johnny Cash's grandson has been doing some stuff like singing his old songs and sounds just like him. It's kind of
Oh, wow,
Erie.
really?
Yeah, he's
No, that's a good one. I'll write that
yeah,
down. I haven't
yeah,
seen
yeah. The
that.
the, the
I'm
grandson.
a roadman. I mean, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, where can people dive in more? Obviously, I'll put some links in the show notes. But if people want to dive in and learn more, where should they go?
Well, I mean, the best place is our website, www.mylearnie.com, mylearnie.com. A little side story on how we came up with Learnie as the name of the company is one of my co-founders married an Australian, and they were living in Australia at the time, and everything over there is like, shrimp on the Barbie, and they put the IE at the end of a lot of their
Yeah.
words. So that's how we came up with Learnie. But www.mylearnie.com. And then send me a note, send me an email. Jeff, put my email out there. I don't mind. And I'm happy to meet with anybody that's interested in learning more about community microlearning.
Awesome. Pete, well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you got a busy schedule, and this was a great interview. Everybody, again, the links will be in the show notes. Click on them, go check it out. And Pete, thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Awesome.